Hi, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. If you buy a new machine and you're a new machine knitter and you don't have a manual, it can be difficult to figure out how to set it up. So let's have a look at how most machines come and how we put them together. This is a Brother 892. Most machines, however, of whatever brand, will come in a similar case. It's got little latches, usually one on each end. And there you go. This part is the actual bed, and I'm going to have to go off camera to turn it around and clamp it. In the lid will be all kinds of other things that you need. In this case, this is a whole separate carriage, the lace carriage. Comes with some Brother machines. This is the sinker plate that fastens by means of these screws onto the main carriage. The main carriage is probably locked onto the bed, as this one is. There's a little lock right there that hooks under a screw and around the end of the needle bed. Also, there will be a yarn mast, there it is, and a row counter. All of these things come out of the lid and attach to the bed of the main machine. A lot of machines have a little tool section, as this one does. In here you may find things like your stitch combs, some transfer tools, some claw weights, and something essential to the setup. Most likely your clamps will be in here. See that slot? These clamps slide into the slot and have to be adjusted to clamp the slot to the table. If you're clamping to a nice table, you may want to pad underneath the clamp slot with something like this. This is small pieces of insulating foam. Craft foam would also work. Even a folded fabric piece would be some help. It would be pointless to make your padding very thick because it would prevent the clamp from clamping firmly to the table, but we're only trying to keep that metal slot from scarring the table. Let's take off the lock that's keeping the carriage on the end of the needle bed and from sliding around in transit. And now we can put the sinker plate on. Goes on like this. We tighten the screws. Well, let me slide it out so you can see the slots. There you go. They slide under the screws, and then the screws must be tightened so the sinker plate stays where it belongs. Here's the yarn mast out. It comes in two pieces in many instances, as in this one. One end of this is going to go into a slot on the machine, right there. Only I have it backwards, and I'll show you how I knew. See this yarn guide? It should fold to the back so it's behind the machine. Have a look. This is the other part of the mast, and it slides onto the top of the upright. There's the yarn guide. This part may have been rotated to lay flat, but it should come up at pretty much the angle you see, but it does vary from brand to brand. And on top are two antennae that are very, very flexible, and they have holes in them, or loops at the end, and these are part of your yarn guidance system. Set the cone of yarn either on the table or on the floor behind the machine. Bring it up and put it through the first loop. On this one it just slides in and out. I don't know if I can put it back one-handed. Some of them must be passed through another way. Up, bring it up to the tension area. Now I am very particular about this. This is a tensioning device. There are discs in here. The yarn must be snugly in between them. There's a numbered dial over here. In this light you can't see the numbers. but the discs press the yarn more tightly the higher the numbers. From there, the yarn comes to these front loops, and from there it goes up through what we affectionately call the bug head, the antenna. I'm not getting this on film for you very well, sorry. There it is. And it's this arching downward pull that controls the yarn as it goes through the carriage. This is the yarn feeder area. There's the yarn correctly threaded. It's threaded into feeder A or 1. If you're working with 2 colors, another might go into feeder B. Be sure that you close what's known as the gate. Otherwise your yarn could potentially pop out while you're knitting. Let me explain why I really want to call this tension that the yarn is doing up, following this wire and through this assembly. Because many people like to call this tension. This is the stitch dial. And there is some tension involved because of what's going on as the yarn passes under the machine. But to differentiate and make things perfectly clear to myself and my readers, I refer to this as stitch size, 0 through 10 on this machine, because that makes it perfectly clear where we're setting size, and where we're setting tension is on those tension discs that are pulling on the yarn in the manner that a sewing machine tensioner works. So this machine is set up and ready to use. And although different brands will look a little bit different when set up, this is a substantially similar process getting most machines out of their boxes. This is the row counter. See those little openings underneath it? They slide on to these knobs. So the fat part of the opening lines over the knobs, and then you push it back, just like that. These can be reset to 0. Different ones allow you to go forward and back. This one only allows you to go forward and count properly. And then on the carriage, this is what triggers the row counter. So if for some reason you don't want rows to count, flip it out of the way. Different carriages might have it on a different position, but it's got to be somewhere where it can trigger the row counter.